the next few weeks, a routine was put in place. Tom woke up at 5 every morning, went for a run with Tessa, came back to the house, got dressed for the day, and woke Millie up. Then, while the little one got dressed,
I'm a big girl, Tommy. I want to choose my clothes.
He woke you up so the three of you could have breakfast together. Then, while Tom spent his morning locked in his office, juggling video calls and checking up on his men, you took advantage of that time to homeschool your daughter. She wanted to learn how to read, so you started to teach her. She was making progress and could recognize most of the sounds now, and you were starting to introduce her to words, moving slowly but surely. Then you all ate lunch together and spent the afternoon in his office. Tom did some paperwork. Millie sat, read, slept in his lap, or made some more artwork to put in his office. And you read, sometimes out loud when he needed a small break and just needed to relax. Today was one of those days. He got through the last of his paperwork and sighed, throwing his head back and sighing dramatically, which made the little girl in his lap giggle.
Tommy, I have a question.
Yeah, darling?
When it's hot again, can we go to the pool? I want to go on the water slide.
Because, as you found out last week, Tom's outdoor pool had a small water slide. Well, if you want, you can just go to the indoor one. The slide's a little smaller, but the water's nice and warm. Her little eyes lit up, and she straightened up on his lap so she was facing him.
Really?
As long as your mom's okay with it. You look down at your watch. It's been long enough since you ate, and she might fall asleep easier tonight. Okay, let's get ready then. She cheered and held on tight to Tom, already knowing he'd carry her to her room. She was becoming a spoiled little thing, getting carried around everywhere. But the calm that took over the man's face when she was close was something you weren't prepared to risk. So you let him take your hand and pull the both of you towards your rooms, reluctantly letting you go so you could change. The pool was huge, to say the least. It was surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows, as was most of his house, and had a small water slide that ended near the shallow part of the pool. Your daughter held on tightly to both of your hands and eyed the slide happily, begging to be let on. Tom took her to the top, and the room was filled with her excited squeals as she slid down and landed in the pool, the floaties around her arms making sure she didn't drown. While the two of them played, you laid down the towels on the chairs and sat down on one of them and went back to your book, lifting your eyes from time to time to look at the two of them. Time for a nice and relaxing evening of reading. Tom was freaking out. He tried to focus on the little girl laughing and splashing in his pool, filling his heart with happiness every time he caught a glimpse of her smile. But that was a hard thing to do when the object of his affection was standing on the side of the pool wearing nothing but her bikini and looking like a full-course meal. His mind went back and forth between making Millie happy and unabashedly staring at you. Not that you'd notice, he always looked away when you lifted your eyes from your book. It was getting tiring, trying to focus on the little brunette while all the blood in his body seemed to be going to his lower regions. He needed to figure something out, quickly. Hey, Angel, you want me to teach you how to swim? That seemed like a good idea. If he had to focus on her well-being, he couldn't think about how hot you looked, and it was always useful to learn how to swim.
But what if I can't stay on top of the water and I drown?
I'll hold you up, darling, don't worry. I won't let you get hurt. She looked up at him through her lashes, a bit apprehensive nonetheless.
Promise?
He looked up from her to you, meeting your eyes for a brief second before looking back at the little one and smiling. I promise. Nothing's gonna hurt you as long as I'm around. Although Millie was more focused on the fact that he wouldn't let her drown, you had caught the double meaning in his words and found yourself spending much more time watching the two of them than reading. It was when you found yourself reading the same paragraph 4 times without actually comprehending a single word that you decided to join them, all hopes of finishing the book long forgotten. Not that you minded. How's it going, you two? Tom smiled at you, hand still firmly placed under your daughter's torso to keep her afloat.
We got the leg movements down, arm movements as well. Now we're just working on getting the two together, and with a bit of practice, she should be good.
Her movements were still uncoordinated, and she was making slow progress in getting them to work in sync. But the smile never left his face, and encouragements kept making their way past his lips. You slowly got into the pool, sighing contentedly as the warm water made contact with your skin, and you walked over to them. The water reached a little under your ribs. Suddenly, Millie stopped moving and looked up.
I'm tired. Can you carry me while you swim, please?
Tom nodded and had her wrap her arms around his neck from behind, resting on his back while he did slow laps, making sure to keep his upper body well above water so she could breathe easily. You joined them in making laps, but after a while decided to have a bit more fun. You took a deep breath and dived, swimming underneath the surface until you were close enough to poke her right foot. A squeal followed by a melodic laugh came from above, and you poked her left foot, tickling it a bit until she got it away from your reach.
Tommy, go faster! The pool monster's gonna get us!
A laugh came from him as well, before you noticed Millie's arms tightening and he sped up. You came up for air and smiled when you saw him sticking his tongue out at you.
Oh, it's on.
That's how Harrison found you a little while later, playing catch and splashing each other as laughs filled the pool room. He smiled and took some pictures to send to Nikki before coming in.
Okay, little fishes, time to get out. Dinner's gonna be ready in a few.
Uncle Hez!
His heart swelled hearing the little ones call, straightening happily at the thought that he was definitely her favorite uncle. Tom swam to the edge, and Millie put her arms up so Haz could pick her up and wrap her in her Moana-themed towel. The brunette was about to get out of the pool as well when you came up behind him and pushed his head underwater, keeping it there for a couple seconds before allowing him to come back up. I always win, darling. You threw a smile his way before climbing out of the pool and wrapping your own towel around your body.
I'm gonna get you for that. You mark my words.
I'll be waiting. You took Millie from Harrison's arms and walked to your room so you could shower and get dressed for dinner, feeling Tom's eyes on you the whole time.
Is this one of those hate to see you go, love to watch you walk away moments?
He made eye contact with his best friend.
No. Why would you say that? Oh, apart from the fact that you're pretty much drooling, those trunks do nothing to hide what you're feeling. Darling.
He said the last word mockingly and threw him his towel before walking away, still laughing ruefully while Tom did his best to conceal his situation.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Your head was resting on Tom's shoulder, his arm around your shoulder, holding you close to his body. Millie was sitting in his lap, holding your hand in her right one, while the left patted Tessa's head, completely focused on the movie playing on the big screen. Ever since December started, movie nights were all about Christmas movies. It was the last Friday before Christmas, and she had asked to watch the Home Alone movie. Sam and Harry fell asleep 10 minutes into the movie, exhausted from running errands all day, and Harrison wasn't much better, eyes blinking slowly until they remained closed for seconds at a time before opening again. You counted 4 more minutes of the movie, and he was fast asleep. You pressed yourself closer to the man next to you, feeling his arm tighten around your shoulders, and his lips pressed a small kiss to the crown of your head. He started drawing circles on your upper arm, and the soothing motion had you falling asleep within minutes. When the movie ended, Tom was the only one left awake. He moved carefully so he could extract himself from his place and gently laid Millie down, making sure Tessa stayed wide awake next to her. He then picked you up as gently as he could and walked slowly to your room, partly not to wake you up with brusque movements, partly so he could appreciate the feeling of holding you close. He eventually reached your room and gently laid you down on the bed, pulling the covers over you and making sure to properly tuck you in so you'd be comfortable. He lowered his upper body until he could safely kiss your forehead, ignoring the part of him that wanted to just go for it and kiss you on the lips.
Good night, my love.
He closed the door to the room as softly as he could and went back to the movie room, only to find that Millie was sitting up, rubbing the sleep from her eyes and yawning adorably.
What are you doing up, darling girl? I was gonna get you to bed.
I was cold.
She lifted her arms up and he picked her up with an ease that only comes with the habit, setting her on his hip and rubbing her back while he climbed the stairs. Tessa followed suit. She'd been practically glued to the young one's side ever since they moved in and had no intention of leaving it. The first thing he did when he entered her room was turn on the nightlight. The room filled with stars of different colors, and he used them to get to the bed, where he pulled the covers away to set her down.
Can you tell me a story?
Which one do you want?
The Princess and the Salt, please.
He took the book and read it to her, changing voices for each of the characters just like he knew she'd loved. It was a story he'd never read before, so he found himself quite surprised at the fact that the princess only had a father and no mother.
Tommy?
She asked when he was finally done.
Yes, Angel.
What's a daddy like?
He stiffened up and measured his words carefully.
What do you mean?
Well, what are they for?
Well, a dad is kind of like a mom, but a man.
She furrowed her brows.
But what do they do?
He thought of how best to respond to that, opting to just remember everything his father did for him.
Well, it's someone that will hold you close until you fall asleep. That'll make sure you eat and drink every day. That'll buy you clothes and toys so you can live a comfortable life. That'll play with you and make sure you're the most important thing in their lives. It's someone that'll do anything that they can to make you happy. That'll love you unconditionally and make sure you'll never get hurt.
He was pleased to find a tired smile on her face and brushed her curls back from her face.
Good night, Angel.
He kissed her forehead and watched as her eyes closed.
Good night, Daddy.
Well, fuck.
Harrison! Sam! Harry! Get up! We have a situation!
The boys woke up with a start, clumsily moving to a fighting stance until they realized the situation was Tom pacing in front of the movie screen.
What's got your knickers in a twist?
The blonde asked while the twins forced themselves to wake up.
Millie called me Daddy.
He expected shock, excitement, hell, even anger, but certainly not what he got.
So? That's it? Unimpressed stares?
She called me Daddy. Me. She called me Daddy.
I ask again. So?
He made a strangled noise and stared at them in disbelief. Are you not the least bit shocked? Millie's not my daughter!
Well, you should act like her father,
Sam said matter-of-factly.
Why are you so worried about this anyway? Kids say dumb shit all the time.
He locked eyes with Harry.
I don't want to take her real father's place. Yeah, now the real reason.
Harry glared back until he finally caved.
I want it to mean something, but I'm not sure it did.
He sat down on the couches and put his elbow on his knees, hands tugging at his hair in frustration.
Why wouldn't it mean something?
Sam's voice was a bit softer now, the same tone his mother always took when she was trying to calm him down.
She asked what her daddy was, and I basically told her everything Dad did. She was tired, and we just talked about it. That doesn't mean it loses its meaning completely, but it also doesn't mean it meant something.
They sighed until Has stood up.
You know what? Let's take a page out of her book.
He got up and walked out of the room, throwing a command their way when he saw they weren't following. When they got to the kitchen, he took out 2 small jars along with a piece of paper, a pen, and some tape. When he was done, he took a bag of Skittles and put them next to the now finished jars.
Okay, this is pretty simple. There's the definitely jar for when she purposely calls you dad, and the maybe jar for when it's not sure, so when she's tired, sick, or when her judgment is otherwise affected, you put a Skittle in the maybe jar. Every other time, you put one in the definitely jar. And this will help how? Because that way, when the definitely jar is full and the maybe jar only has 2 or 3 candies inside, you'll get your head out of your ass and realize she sees you as a father just as much as you see her as a daughter.
He took the poorly made jars as well as the bag of Skittles and went back to his room, remembering to put one of the candies in the maybe jar before falling asleep. He woke up with a start when he heard soft cries coming from Millie's room. He's never been so thankful for insisting on keeping the doors open than the moment he saw his little girl squirming on the bed, teddy bear on the floor and holding the covers with the death grip, with her eyes screwed shut.
Millie, wake up, angel. Wake up, it's just a dream.
Daddy!
She woke up with a start and clung to him as tight as she could, tears still falling from her eyes and sobs racking her body.
I'm here, baby. I'm right here.
Her sobs must have been loud enough to wake you up, because the next thing he knew, you were right next to them, rubbing her back and shushing her softly. His eyes never stopped running around the room, looking for intruders, guns, laser sights, any threat. His breath matching the little girl's ragged ones because of his panicked state. You felt his breathing come out in sharp bursts and saw his eyes scan the room over and over and over again, until you finally realized what he was doing. You turned his head towards you and took his hand in yours, pressing it to your chest and taking slow, exaggerated breaths until he eventually followed you and his breathing slowed, followed by Millie's. What did you dream about, Rosie? She shook her head and buried deeper into Tom's chest, holding on to him tightly. Was it a bad dream about Tommy? She took longer than he would have liked to reply, but nodded nonetheless. Did he get hurt? She nodded again, and you took a shuddering breath.
He got hurt like Auntie.
Your aunt's death was a shock. 1 second she was peacefully asleep, and the next you were calling an ambulance to get her to the hospital. It was in the middle of the night, so in Millie's perspective, she went to sleep one night and just didn't wake up again. But Tommy didn't get hurt, okay? He's still here, see? You took her hand and pressed it to his chest. You feel his heart go boom boom? That means he's not hurt, okay? He's fine. You're fine. Everything's fine. You continued to soothe them both with kind words and soft touches until Millie spoke up again.
Can we all sleep together tonight, please?
You were about to speak up, but Tom beat you to it.
Of course, darling girl. Anything you want.
He kissed the crown of her head, and the domesticity of it all took you by surprise. You didn't have much time to dwell on it, though, because you were suddenly being pulled into his room. You took it all in. The sleek design, dark colors that surprisingly pleased you a lot, and a big, fluffy-looking bed.
You're all sweaty, darling. Let's clean you up so you can sleep comfortably, yeah?
He then turned towards you, and you were taken aback by the intensity of his gaze.
Can you get her some underwear and a t-shirt from my closet? The 3rd drawer is after the mirrors. It's where I keep my softest ones.
You nodded and quickly made your way to Millie's room to get her underwear before going into his closet. The sight that greeted you was a confusing one, to say the least. The right side of the mirrored doors was completely empty, and a vanity was sitting across from them. It looked like someone had moved out and he hadn't had the time or will to move his clothes. Your thoughts started running again, but you forced yourself to just get the shirt and get out. You're not together. He doesn't owe you an explanation. You can't be jealous of his past. When you got to the bathroom, Millie was already in the tub. He had filled it with water and bubbles and was getting ready to wash her hair while she played with the bubbles in front of her.
And then what happened?
Well, then we went to our doctor and he fixed it.
You set the clothes on the counter and made your way to them. What are you troublemakers plotting?
I was just telling her what happened the last time I broke my nose.
She nodded.
He's super tough, and he has a very good doctor, so he can't die like Auntie did.
You smiled at his attempt to cheer her up and knelt down next to them. You wanted to wait until Millie was asleep, but she was pretty distracted by the bubbles, and you just couldn't take it anymore. Your room's pretty.
Thanks. I changed it recently. It used to be a lot more cramped.
You looked at him from the corner of your eyes, hand unconsciously moving to your daughter's forehead to stop the soapy water from getting into her eyes. Didn't have time to unpack everything yet?
Why do you say that?
Only half of your closet's full. He blushed bright red, but didn't answer you. You finished the bath and got Millie dressed in Tom's shirt.
It's so soft and it smells like you.
He smiled and picked her up again, then took your hand and led you back to the room. The bed was as comfortable as you imagined, and thanks to the light coming in from the window, you could see Tom's face clearly. From her spot laying between the two of you, Millie poked Tom's bare stomach until he diverted his attention from you to her.
Tell me a story?
Which one?
Make one up.
He took a deep breath.
Once upon a time, there was a king. His people loved him, and the kingdom was prospering. But the king was lonely. You see, he had everything. Money, pretty clothes, friends. But he didn't have a queen. One day, the king went to another kingdom, and he met a woman. She was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She was kind and loving, and her smile made his heart beat fast.
Your breath caught in your throat when you noticed he was looking at you.
The woman had an amazing daughter. The daughter was pretty, fun, and she saw the good in the king. Didn't believe he was bad, like people in the other kingdom did. The king fell in love with the woman and saw her daughter as his own. He wanted them to be his family.
He trailed off, and when he didn't keep going, she spoke up.
Did they become a family?
I don't know. I still haven't finished reading the story.
She hummed and buried further into his chest.
I hope they do.
I hope so too.
She sighed and closed her eyes.
Good night, Mommy.
Night-night, Rosie.
Night, Daddy.
His breath hitched a fraction.
Sweet dreams, Angel.
She was asleep within seconds, but you were awake staring at each other in utter and complete awe. She started calling me that tonight. I know.
You do?
You gave him a small smile and nodded. It was bound to happen at some point. You're the closest thing she's ever had to a dad. But I can tell her to stop. You didn't miss the way his arms tightened around her.
Or we could just let her.
You raised an eyebrow and felt his hand come up to your waist to pull you closer.
Do you remember when you asked me why Millie had a personalized room and you didn't?
You nodded.
This is why.
Oh. So that's why half his closet was empty, and there was a vanity in it.
I'm in it for the long run, darling. But it's ultimately your choice.
It's your choice. Is this something you want? Eating breakfast all together? going to church every Sunday, spending afternoons in his office, movie nights every Friday, hearing your daughter laugh with glee whenever he's around? Give her a family? Falling asleep next to the man that's looking at you like you hung the moon and all the stars. The man you love. There's really not much thinking to be done, is there? Your hands came up to cup his cheek, and your lips met his in a soft kiss. Good night, Tommy. You felt his smile, lips still close enough for it.
Good night, Starlight.